Welcome back to the bleh, sorry. Welcome back to the Empowered Educational Conversations podcast with Elin and Christina, episode 56. I'm Elin, co-host of this podcast. I've been in education for 17 years as a former school counselor and high school assistant principal. I currently coach K-12 school leaders in revolutionizing the K-12 public school system.
And I'm Christina, the other co host of this podcast. This is my 18th year in education. I was a former high school English teacher and K 12 site administrator. I'm currently a teacher coach at the K 12 school district and a K 12 co school leadership coach with my homie and business partner, Elin, right here in the San Francisco Bay Area. Hey, y'all.
But before we get into this episode, let's do our check-in. So, Christina, how you been?
Oh, my goodness. Tired. I didn't so my son just turned 1.
Yay.
And I didn't realize that planning a 1-year-old birthday is super hectic. I mean,
Yep.
it's it's physically and mentally draining. I think I made it mentally draining, but mainly
Mhm.
because I was trying to stick to a theme and I just kept on going down a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
So the theme was space theme or astronaut. And the first what is it, first trip around the moon. And so sorry, he's like knocking on the door right now. um but I mean, it was fun. It was good to see family and
Mhm.
friends, especially ones that you just don't see on a regular basis, and for many of them that was the first time that they ever met my son. And
Yeah.
so it was tiring, but it was worth it. I loved it. And I went all in on the gift bags for the little kids.
Yeah, you did. And you gave him bugs.
And yep, yep. That's my signature thing, is to give books as gifts in
Mhm.
addition
Mhm.
to the fun gift bag. So how are you doing?
I'm doing all right. It was a lovely birthday party, and I do think that it's a lot of work. And for you, like, too, just think about it. Like, the first birthday does get in your head because you're like, I raised this child for a year. Like, they've completed the year. Like, I think one of the hardest years with a child. And so, in so many ways, and this is what I was told when, our son turned a year old, was in some ways, it's more a celebration for you than it
Hmm.
is for the kid because you got through the first year of having a kid and of this new life because no one really prepares you for what it's like when you're pregnant, right? And you don't know until you go through it because every kid's different. So that's where, like, it's important for us to celebrate us and then doing, as a mom and
Well,
what you went through.
it's funny that you said that because I did have a little wellness weekend, and
Hmm.
I spent the night in Bodega Bay,
Hmm.
and I had dinner all by myself, and I made a comment to, well, that just a little small
Small
talk.
talk. Yeah.
Yeah, the server asked me what I was doing here, and I was like, "Oh, it's my son's first birthday," um, and so right when I asked for the check, instead of bringing me a check, she sang, well, she's saying happy birthday to me.
Uh-huh.
And I forgot, she just tweaked the words a little bit, basically saying like, um, it's been a year since you gave birth.
Yep.
And that is something to be proud of. That's a
Mm-hmm.
triumph. And
Yep.
it's a celebration.
Yeah.
Because she's like, not to sound morbid, but she's like, many
Mm-hmm.
women still like pass away from it, and I
Mm-hmm.
feel like people don't acknowledge it, and
Yeah.
he's like just celebrating life.
Yep.
like not only for for your child, but for you. And yeah, that was really sweet.
Mm.
I really appreciate that. And I even got a candle too.
Oh, nice. I mean, I think that's sweet, and I'm glad you did that. And I think, we do need to take those moments to celebrate the work that, that we put into it as well. Especially the first year, like that first year. And so I didn't have to plan a huge birthday party the first year because we were still in the pandemic.
Mhm.
And we didn't actually have a birthday party until the third birthday. And that was a lot. Like, and so now, like, reflecting back, I'm like, maybe there's not going to be a birthday party every single year. Like, it's okay to skip a couple, like skip, maybe it's every other year because it's a lot of work. And I just until I don't know. So it's just a lot to think about. But it was a really sweet birthday party, and we were so happy to be able to celebrate that as well because I think it's important. And he was surrounded by so much love and just joy, and I think that's important too. And so it was a good time. Even though with traffic, it took me like 2 hours to get there, but
Yo,
and the little one in the car was like, "Are we there yet? Are we there yet?" I'm like, no.
like where was that? I mean, I didn't see any accidents because it also took us long, and I was just super nervous because I was like, okay, I was like, I don't have to worry about my family coming through late, but you and the friends, I knew everyone else was going to get there on time. So I was like, okay, I need to send this message right quick.
Yeah, no, I don't know. There wasn't accidents. I just think that there was just a lot of people out, and it was a weekend, and I don't know. I had never like it's just traffic you weren't expecting because I was like, I know it's
Mhm.
not going to take me this long, and it did. So anyways, it was worth it, and thanks for inviting us, and it was lots of fun. So
Mhm.
I'm excited. All right. Let's get into this episode because I'm actually really excited and looking forward to talk about this. But before we get into it, just a reminder that our last episode was also just really like a breath of fresh air. We had our guest Michael Ray and talked about humanizing the teaching experience through instructional coaching. And so, if you haven't already checked that out, go back and listen and let us know what you think or share it with a friend or a colleague. But this episode's something that I think both you and I, Christina, have been waiting to talk about. So
Yeah, so let's jump right into this episode. So back in mid-February, I'm all talking like it's back in the day, but
it feels like it.
so a month ago, Aline and I attended the Hatching Results Conference in San Diego, California. So this conference is actually targeted to individuals who oversee school counseling programs. So
Yes, it was
yes,
at the
you would think that it's just for counselors, but
well, and that's why they call it the School Counseling Leadership Conference. Like that's
Mhm.
what it is, like Catching Results School Counselor Leadership Conference. They wanted to make sure that it wasn't like school counseling specific, like or what it is, but like it's not just for school counselors.
Absolutely. So the attendees, yes, were mainly K-12 counselors, but then there were also district and county office school administrators, as well as school principals and assistant principals, and specifically the assistant principals who are in charge or who support the counseling program. So the purpose of the Hatching Results Conference, they had three main objectives: to address a critical gap in professional learning for administrators who oversee school counseling programs at the school, district, county, and state levels; to empower and equip decision makers to hire, mentor, lead, evaluate, and support school counselors so that measurable student outcomes are at the core of all school counseling programs nationwide. And then lastly, to leave with fresh ideas, applicable resources, and confidence that you can lead school counselors to implement cutting edge, comprehensive school counseling programs for the benefits of all students. Okay, so that's the whole contextual information. And so I just want to share my initial reactions. Like, first of all, I was super excited because this was my first in person PD since 2019. And no lie, it was just dope that it was in San Diego. I mean, just that in itself, I'm like, oh, okay. Like at that point, I kind of didn't even care what the PD was about. I was like, oh, San Diego? Yeah, oh, for sure. I'll go.
Yeah.
Um, so there was that. And I'll get to the real content, but I do just have to share this stuff. Yo, that was the best. Shout out to the hatching results, whoever organized it, because that was the best PD food I have ever had.
Dude,
Like,
that spread was like
yo,
that was it. Like they had something for everybody. I didn't have any issues with my dietary restrictions. It was great.
oh, I don't got dietary restrictions. All I care about is that there's a variety and the food
Mhm.
got seasoning and some taste. It
It
was
sure did.
delicious.
Hmm.
And I mean, not that I got seconds, but they had enough food for people to get seconds. I didn't need to get seconds because I just already filled up my plate. Because I didn't want to walk through the crowd again. But yes, the food was delicious. Breakfast, lunch, dinner, endless coffee. And I don't know what kind of, I'm picky when it comes to coffee. I don't know what kind of coffee it was, but it was pretty decent.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, so yes, that was great. And oh my gosh, the hotel we stayed at was also very nice. Um, okay, but on a serious on a serious note though, like this is the first PD that I have gone to where yes, it was you could say that it was for counseling, right? Like the focus was about counseling in the counseling department. And because usually like all the past PDs I've been to, it's all ELA, like English,
Hmm.
secondary English, um, or content specific, like math or science, common core, or like just trainings that administrators have to go to. So
Hmm.
I must say, yo, the counselor vibe is so different from all the PDs that I've been to. And like all the recent past PDs that I've been to, because I was an administrator for 10 years, like it was mainly like dominated by administrators.
Hmm. Hmm.
And this is why it was different. I mean, when I say the vibe, like the counselors are just super friendly. Like they're really, really friendly. They're welcoming. And like so we were like Aline and I, only because like we were just trying to keep our responses short when we introduce ourselves. Like yes, there are times we told them that we were coaches, but we did tell them that we're administrators as well.
Hmm.
And like once they heard that, they were just so grateful. Like they were just so grateful and they're just like, "Oh my god, welcome. Like we've always wanted more administrators here. This is amazing." I'm like, okay, I've never heard that before. Like
Yeah.
they and like I mean, not to put administrators down, and I feel that I could say this, but
Hmm.
yo, some admin PDs like they could be contentious and like school leaders we could have like they could have like their ego, you feel me, and it was just different, y'all. And I just really appreciate the counselors for that. Like I didn't realize that's how PDs could be.
Yeah.
What about you, Elaine?
Well, I share a lot of the same reactions as you. I have been to in-person PDs um be before, like after you, I guess I should say, before this one, after you. Um but it was also still counseling related. And so I shared like the vibe is totally different. I think in nature, counselors are just very welcoming and like, like want to learn more about people and are just like, I don't know, like you said, they're just friendly. And so for sure that was a reaction. Also, the hatching results, like just the work that they do is amazing.
Yeah.
And everyone that works for that organization is just so full of knowledge and really wants to see this work being done. Like, like they are just so excited about teaching this stuff where it makes you want to put things in action. And like, because some of the workshops I attended, were put on by some of the members of Hatching Results. And it just, like, I don't know, it just gets you pumped up. It gets you really excited and motivated to do these things and to want to take action on what they're teaching. And yeah, so like it just was well organized. From, even like the last day where they had work time, the way that they organized that
Yes, yes,
was
yo.
like just so thoughtful. And it was like, I think that's a really good model to use when you're doing like on-site PD and want to break it up by the levels of knowledge and information. Like, you got some veteran staff that are like, we just want to get to work. We don't need a lot of the, explanation. And then to the newbies that are like, I actually need someone there with me to walk me through how to execute or how to like, plan my deliverable. And so it was just so nice to see how thoughtful every single piece of each day was planned out. So just like this is one of the PDs where I feel like it, or conferences, I should say. This is one of the
Hmm.
conferences that is well worth it, that I would love to see more schools, especially in the Bay Area, because that's something I always take away from these types of conferences is like I want to see more Bay Area schools represented when it comes to school counselor leadership.
That, you know what? That is so true
Yeah,
because like I noticed that the folks, we're not saying no Bay Area people were there,
right,
but
right.
just from the ones that we talked to, and of course, like in a lot of the sessions, you shout out where you're from. And I just did not hear a lot of Bay Area. I heard
Hmm.
like a lot of out of state. I mean, we even had people from like Hawaii. Yo, I think we even had
Guam.
right. Yeah, yes, yes. I also had someone from like outside the country. I did hear some folks from California, but it just wasn't the immediate Bay Area. So
No, mostly Southern California or the Valley. Like it just
I was gonna say there was a lot of
Central
people
Valley.
from Bakersfield and such.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So that's like always one of my reactions. But in general, it just was a really well thought, organized conference that I would definitely want to keep going to and see the attendance from our area grow because there's a lot to take away from this conference, and the sessions are just really like some are like really philosophical, but others are practical. Like you get to see what a district did and see how you can replicate it. So I guess we could talk about that next.
Well, yeah, okay. Well, because I was just gonna say, like, definitely, I do want to make this a regular
Mm-hmm.
yearly or at least every other year PD. I would also love to see us like with our mentees
Our
that we have,
clients, yeah.
our clients. Like, oh my gosh, it would be dope for us to
Yep.
like recommend it to them, be like, hey, let's go to this so we can like debrief it together,
Mm-hmm.
especially since many of our clients are the administrator on site who are in charge of the counseling department and the master schedule.
Yep.
But we could talk more about that after we share our experiences. So what I really liked about it is that they had a menu of
Mm-hmm.
a menu of sessions that you could attend, and they had just to describe it, they had like five main themes. So if you wanted like equity, um, beginning, uh, beginning like intro to the counseling department, and they had three other themes. And so if you choose a theme, they're just like, here are the sessions that you could choose from for the next 2.5 days. So since I am not a credentialed counselor, I was like, I'm gonna go to the beginning sessions. And so I attended these 5 sessions: counselors and principal partnerships, supporting Tier 1 school counseling program for all students, admin support for Tier 2, strengthening the accountability between school counselors and school district leaders, and then lastly, systems approach for school leaders, the power of 3. So my out of all of the first of all 5 of them were dope. Like every single one of them, I was able to take one gem. I mean, they had many, but just take one gem and like immediately apply it to um, my coaching craft, right? And as I mentioned before, we have the majority of our clients are the administrators who supervise the counseling department slash master schedule. So it's like I could just take that information and apply it to our coaching. Um, but my favorite was the strengthening the accountability between school counselors and school district leaders. So I did not know this, but I do now. There are templates, and I love templates. Okay, so they presented 3 templates that administrators, either principals and or the assistant principal who's in charge of the counseling department, 3 templates that you could use to help guide your support and ongoing conversation with the counseling department. The first template that is free to everyone, okay, is the annual administrative conference template. So for this particular template, it's a counselor action plan for the year on how they will structure their work to support the vision, mission, goals of the school. And when they first introduced this template, like there was an administrator who asked a really, I mean, a very honest question, like, this sounds great, but wouldn't the counselors feel like this is like a I gotcha moment, and like I'm trying to micromanage you? Um, and like as soon as the administrator asked that, the counselors in the room were like, no, 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 no. They're just like, this is a plan. Like, this is a plan of teamwork. Like, this is not just like, if you look at the plan, it has the counseling. It has the counseling, like our action plan goals, but it also has the goals of the school. Therefore, it has like what we need from administration so that we can accomplish our goals. Right. And so they're just like, it's actually a form for accountability for everyone. Right. And then, of course, like the template is it's data driven, and and we love data. That's the educator bread and butter. So, and all the templates that I'm mentioning, that I'm going to mention, are data driven. The second template that I love is the advisory council template. So it gives school community a voice that holds counselors accountable for action items while opening up advocacy and awareness of the counselor role, and it expands the work. So I this was like totally like brand new to me. So the way that I understand it, and like Aline, correct me if I'm wrong. So this meeting generally just happens twice a year. So it's like the- more like at the beginning of fall, and then I don't want to say at the end of the school year. It sounds like that a lot of them have it mid-year.
Hmm.
So it's just like there's a representative from like various agencies in your school community. So you have teachers, you have parents, you have students, you have admin, community partnerships, and it's allowing the counselors or the counseling department to share like this is this is what we're working on this year.
Hmm.
This is what we're offering to students. This is what we're offering to teachers. This is how we are contributing to the vision, mission, and goals of the school. And so once again, it's like I had administrators in that conference where they're just like we've never done that before, and like you know, wow, there's so many people that are in that meeting. Cause like when the counselors were sharing the schools that actually do it, they're like, there's like anywhere between like at least 12 to 15. And we're like, 12 to 15. And they're just like, I
Yeah.
really hope that they don't feel like we're trying to like micromanage. So
But the
Elin,
way
can you speak on that?
I mean, the way that I see advisory council is kind of like school site council for the counseling department,
Okay.
where you're like, you're presenting like the major things that you're doing as a department, and you're like inviting the community to provide feedback or to ask questions so that you can then reflect and refine the events or projects or things that you're leading as a school counseling department. And it's driven by the school counselors, so it's supported by the administration, but it's really driven by the school counselors, so it shouldn't feel like they're being micromanaged. It's meant to showcase the work, to market the role of the school counselor, and to get more support, right? Because oftentimes, like, because the department's so small but they do so many large ticket items on and projects on campus, that it's really meant to get that support, and to showcase the great work that's being done. And so that's how I see it. It's like more like school site council, where you minimum is 2 times, but you can offer it more, depending on the school site, or the level of feedback that they want. And it's one of the requirements if you want to be recognized through the National Association, through RAMP. So it's part of the comprehensive counseling model. So anyways, yeah, it's not used a lot, especially here in the Bay.
Yeah, yeah. So it's one of the so a counselor made a comment and was like, this is our opportunity, just like what you said, to showcase the work that we do, because a lot of school agencies, including teachers and including administrators, they do not understand or know exactly what we do. Like, there's this misconception that we're the busiest when it comes to the master schedule because they know that we help with the master schedule, or um like we advise students when it's time to apply for colleges, but they're like, we do a lot more than that. Like we do a lot. We don't just sit in our offices and wait for a phone call. Like they're just like we do so much. And so to be able to like express to them like we are an important part of this school community. Like we just like how the administrators have their very important role, teachers have their very important role, like we complete that triangle. I mean, she was like, I'm gonna say triangle, but like of course there's more to it, but then we are the power of three, and we need to really like learn and appreciate what each of our roles are. And so that was just a really nice comment to say. And at the same time, it's like I get what the administrators were concerned about, because this is new to us, right? Like I was just mainly listening, and thankfully there were administrators current site level administrators who were just like, this is so brand new to me. Like and you could tell like at that moment too, with the type of questions that they were asking, is that they do lack an understanding of the counseling department. And they did, a few admit that they did not have a good relationship with their counseling department. And so these templates and these processes and protocols could help build that partnership. And then lastly, this calendar, I would have loved this calendar. I mean, I would have loved this, knowing about this template. It's called the annual calendar. And basically you ask your counselors, it helps counselors document their minutes. And so in terms of like how many minutes they do direct student services and how many minutes they do indirect student services. So the way that they explained it to me was that during the annual administrative conference, they set a goal with the admin team, and there's a certain criteria where it should be 80-20 or 75, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, like 80% direct student services and 20% indirect student services. And so from there, you would, if that, and then you express that goal to the administrator, and then you and the administrator figure out ways to help the counselor accomplish that 80-20 goal. Um, And so when you do have your ongoing check-in meetings with your administrator, that's one of the things that you want to pull up, is your annual calendar, to be like, okay, this is where I am. Like, as you could see here, for instance, I'm at 65% direct student services. I'm 15% off, and here are the reasons why. Like, oh, I've been subbing, right? I've been subbing for a class, or I've been asked to cover the cafeteria, like those things. And you have that data to like say, like, this is what I'm doing, and technically I shouldn't be doing these things, right? Like, that doesn't match. If I'm supposed to support the vision and mission and goals, like, we need to reassess like how I'm spending my time. um So, with that said, just to quickly sum up everything that I just said, what I ultimately learned was like, with all the sessions, is how to leverage your counselors to bring the vision, mission, and goals to life. I also learned that you're not supposed to say guidance counselor. Like, that's like saying Voldemort, right? In Harry Potter. Like, it's just a no-no.
Yeah.
And you must utilize your school counselors, period, for
Mhm.
efficiency, for sustainability, and for student equity.
Yeah, that's huge.
It's definitely an equity move.
Mhm.
So if you are not leveraging your counseling department, like, there are so many missed opportunities
Yeah.
towards school equity. I mean,
Mhm.
it's plain and simple.
Mhm. Mhm.
But before Aline shares her moments or her favorite pieces about the conference, could you please explain why we're not supposed to say guidance counselor?
That's like, I want to build, like, use that somehow in, the work that we do, like with our clients and in content, because I think even some counselors are split with that as well. And
Okay.
the way that I see it and understand it is that guidance counselor was like the old school model, like what, it was for how it first originated, where it was like specifically meant to support students with career options and like helping them like pick their careers, and with career counseling, and that it doesn't capture how it evolves over time. And we're not guiding students. We are built on, data informed decisions and how to support student in the three different domains, and social emotional, academic, and college career. And that guidance doesn't capture that fully by saying we are school counselors, because we're part of the school community, and we do more than just guide students. And so that's where I feel like, and obviously there's more to it. And I want to, really build on that. But I also didn't realize like why there was such a big issue, because, I've been in the profession for so long where I was like, oh yeah, I'm a guidance counselor. Um, but now like fully understanding like the movement around it, I'm like, yeah, we're school counselors. Job descriptions should be updated, which a lot of them aren't. And there are districts that still use the title guidance, and there's, movement around that by departments to get that changed and to get job descriptions updated, because it's not fully encompassing like what the counseling department actually does and can do.
No, like there was one counselor who did ask that question, because she was like, I hate to say it, but at our school, in our school district, we still use the word guidance. And so she was like, could I, I'm a visual learner, so could someone please just explain to us like why? And someone made, okay, this is what I remember. So a counselor was like, okay, like imagine a tour guide, right? Like you go to a museum, right? And when you guide someone during a tour, it's like you know exactly where you want to take them. You know exactly what you want to tell them. Like, in a sense, you have a specific end goal, right? And so she was like, but we want to step back from guidance, and we want to have more of a coaching lens. So when you have a coaching lens, you want to step back from guidance, and you want to be more of like, I want to present all this information to you, and so you have options and opportunities, but I want you to reflect on it so you could create your own path. Because with a guidance or a tour guide, you already made the path.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yep.
And
Yeah,
I
that's
was
a good way. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I had to snap to that. I was like, thank you, because I was like, I was still having a difficult time myself.
No, that's a great way of putting it. It's so true.
Yeah. Well, let us know what did you attend, because we did not, we only attended one or two together, but
Yeah.
you
That's
did you did your own thing.
That's the other amazing thing about this conference, is that there is so much to choose from, where like it was great that you and I attended different ones, because then we were able to kind of like talk through what we were learning. So the sessions that I attended, one was intentional school counseling for equity and systems change, cultivating school counselor leadership, supporting transformative collaboration, sharing school counseling program results, systems approach to school culture, and then the one that you attended, I think it was a systems approach for school leaders. And so my favorite was cultivating school counselor leadership. I mean, obviously, I loved all of them. And like you said, Christina, I could take something from each of them and apply them directly and really like just rally around the work that these departments and states are doing to support school counseling. And so I every single one, I have like pages of notes and like things highlighted around like, yes, this is what I want to talk more about, or see how I could support this department doing that. And so with the cultivating school counselor leadership, I mean, what I learned, and this is kind of like in connection to the whole guidance counselor versus school counselor, is that in this session they really did a deep dive on the Ask a National model. And so with the biggest takeaway for me that I still think about is that the Ask a National model wasn't out until 2003. So if you think about it, like it made sense to me. I'm like, oh, snap, like 2003, like I finished my program in 2007. So at that point, the model hadn't been out, for only 4 years. Like it was still very new. And so that totally made sense for me when I went into, the school sites, how it was so hard for me to see this come to life because the veteran counselors that had been working there for so many years did not get taught the national model. And so it was like, oh, no wonder it's so hard for counselors who finished their programs well before 2003, that unless they were, active in their um associations or in continuing education, were not taught what the Ask a National model was and what comprehensive counseling programs were, or even what the three domains are. And so that to me was like, okay, that's helpful and made sense for me within my years in counseling, and also with, working with schools now and understanding like, well, how long have your counselors, been in the field, and have they been taught and given the opportunity to really dive deeper into the Ask a National model. So that's where it's like, okay, first you have to understand like this model hasn't been around forever. It's on the fourth edition right now. So if you think about like school, like education period, like these models, you have to understand like when they even came out, where they started, how they started, and how it's being taught and delivered. So that in itself was just like, okay, thank you for diving deeper into the Ask a National model, especially because there was a lot of administrators in the room, and not all administrators even understand that there is a national model for school counseling, or that there's a national association for school counseling. So ASCA is like the American School Counselor Association, that, releases this, that puts out and guides and manages these different the counseling model, the national model, but also just like um this ethical standards and the different I'm blinking right now, but the different stances that ASCA takes on different initiatives. And so part of this session was also just that different ways school counselors can be leaders. And this is something that we talk about, like leveraging school counselors and their leadership. And obviously, like the obvious step for school counselors to be leaders is to step into administration. But there's also different ways. And I think that, we forget that they can show leadership by serving on a committee at your school site, right? Making sure you have counseling representation in different committees. Do is the department chair at your school site council meetings, or at your IC meetings, or what ILT, whatever you want to call it, right? Making sure that there's representation from the school counseling department. That is the bare minimum of how they can show their leadership. But also, are they active on their state association? They can volunteer to be on different committees within like the state association. So like in California, the California Association of School Counselors, there's different ways that school counselors at your school can take leadership within the state association. And that is another way for them to build their leadership and to also, impact change on the state level. So encouraging them and understanding how they can play a role in those different committees and different associations. Community outreach, like they can serve on a board for the Rotary Club, or how are they, in connection with different nonprofits within your local community. Again, this is how they can advocate for the profession, but also advocate for their students. Because the more that you serve on these different boards or attend these different networking opportunities, build out your network so that you can ask for different funding or scholarships or even for career day. So there's just different ways that school counselors can show their leadership. And then, ultimately, it would be great to have them show leadership at the national level and get involved with ASCA, be either on their board or be on a committee or help them plan the national conference that they have every year. Because not only did they get to attend for free, but they get to also network and meet counselors from different states and get ideas from them and be inspired by what's happening outside of our little bubble that we're so used to. And so it just really spoke to how collaboration and like putting the work in as a school admin to really learn the role of the school counselor is impactful on so many different levels. That the more that your school site admin, and I'm speaking specifically to the, listeners who are school administrators, the more that you understand the role of the school counselor and how they can build their leadership at different levels, from your school site to the community to the state, then to the national level, really helps put them in a position where they can push their department to be data driven, to work on equity, and to deliver the best results for your students. And so I don't know, I really appreciated that because it took me outside of just the basic, like, oh, school counselors need to be admin and that's how they're going to, rise in leadership. No, there's like so many other ways. And even me, like, I'm like, oh, there's a lot that I did that was like, feeding my leadership before I became an administrator. And so it's just something to think about for school counselors. Like when you feel really stuck and like want to do more, and maybe your school admin isn't supporting that, there's other ways to show your leadership that maybe then will help you build the toolbox or whatever you want to call it to then come back to your school site admin and say, this is what I'm doing and this is how I can put it into effect here at our school site. And this is the data that shows what I can do to make it effective. So I really, really appreciated that one a lot and made me think a lot. And ultimately, from the overall experience, there is just so much power in the counseling department. And because it's such a small department on the school site, I think they often get overlooked. And so I think what we're doing and highlighting this is important, especially with our clients, is how to leverage that power. And overall, again, from all of the sessions I attended, is that there are systemic approaches, and how it's possible to have schools and districts have a comprehensive counseling program. I think a lot of us, especially in this area, are like, oh, that could never happen. Like, oh, that's just a dream. But I'm like, no, it's actually happening in local and neighboring places like Central Valley and Southern California and other states, where not only like, I think it was in Washington. I think it was Washington. I hope I'm not wrong, but they're doing a, state level approach to this, where there's a state support with the districts in that state to put together comprehensive counseling models at all their schools in all their districts. And it's taking time and they're rolling it out thoughtfully, but I'm like, this can actually happen. There is a systemic approach to this. Like you can actually put this together, and we could see this happening at every single school site, with the support from the state. So I just, I was like, we could do this. And there are many, like, again, like I said earlier, that there are many ways that counselors can show up in leadership positions that aren't admin. Although I would love more school counselors to go in administration, I will say that time and time again. I do want to see more school counselors becoming school site administrators, but that there are other ways that they can be leaders. And I think we cannot take that away from them. And we should encourage school counselors to be involved in different leadership roles within your school site, community, state, and nationally. So that is like what I what I took away overall. And yeah, there's just so much more that I am still processing and reviewing.
And sorry, there's the grass is getting cut out front. um, so what I do appreciate about the Ask a National model, it's very clear and concise about like how to transition your counseling department to mirror and to follow the practices of a Ask a National model. And yo, it has templates. Like like you're not creating stuff from scratch. It's all there, and it's
Yep.
like I'm a template person, and when I looked at the templates, I was like, I wouldn't even edit it. Like I mean, maybe the font, but like,
Oh my God. But you know what? I mean, that is true. And I think it's overwhelming. I think it's overwhelming because like I also have to speak to the fact that school counselors are doing a lot. Caseloads are high. So I'm not, I'm not taking away from that. But you could start anywhere in the national model and put it
yeah,
together over time. Like it doesn't say you have to do it all at once.
right.
And there are different pieces that you don't have to create yourself to get started.
And what one of the I'm like reporting what I heard. As I said, I was definitely a listener during this PD.
Mm-hmm.
So according to some of the participants there from both admin and counselors, the ones who have adopted and or transitioning to the ASCA national model, was that they said that it would take at least 3 years
Yep.
to get a good solid, to get a foundation. But in actuality, like they're like, just give yourself 5 years,
Mm-hmm.
like give yourself grace.
Mm-hmm.
And it took us, they're like, it took us about 5 years to get to where we are today.
Yep.
And they're just like, if you follow the ASCA model, and they're like, and this is for administrators who have a teaching background,
Mm-hmm.
the process and protocol will even allow you to like learn as you go, right? Like going back to them templates I was talking about,
Yeah.
y'all, like if you follow these templates, you're actually you're like, you don't have to be a counselor, a former counselor. You don't have to be like going to like a week-long PD to understand what the counselors are doing. If you're following the protocol, you could actually, you're learning as you go. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like a cool learning as you go, not the overwhelming learning as you go.
Yeah.
It's more of like a more of like an aha moment, like, oh, okay, like this is great. And like selfishly, like as an administrator, because we're just so overwhelmed with everything, you're going to go through the process and be like, well, dang, I was doing that. Like, okay, cool. Thank you. Like, you're actually making the job easier
Yeah.
for the
It just,
administrator.
I kind of feel like, when you're organizing your desk and you have papers everywhere, like it's the work is getting done, right? But all this model is doing is like organizing the paperworks into different, like, in different file folders, or like, cleaning it up, getting rid of what isn't working or what you don't need anymore. And really like, getting what is working in order, right? And like putting it and organizing it. And so I just feel like sometimes we have to approach it that way. You're already doing a lot of it. It's just organizing it in a way that fits this template,
Right.
really. And cleaning and then it's making a better case for you to clean up the stuff that's not actually fitting in and that you're taking up a lot of your time. So
Right.
yeah.
And it's not saying that the administrator is like, okay, cool, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Right.
It's
It's a
more,
collaborative effort.
yeah, it's a collaborative effort. And really, like the counselors are like, they're the ones who are going diving deep into it, right? Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you're lightweight, like the surface level, like just
Mm-hmm.
trying to like just helping with the structure and the support so the work can happen. But it's the counselors who are doing that deep dig for you, not for you, for the school, for the students. So
Mm-hmm. Yep.
yes. I can't wait till next year.
I know, me too. I'm so excited. So I just really am grateful for Hatching Results for putting something together. And like Tris Hatch, the founder of Hatching Results, she was one of the creators of the national model. So who better to be putting something like this together to build that gap between admin and counseling. So it's definitely worth checking out. Even if you can't make it to the conference, to check out the other offerings, because they offer classes and workshops and there are books. So it's an organization that just put in some amazing work. But Christina, why don't we do a quick update on our self-care that is in relation to the conference, right? Because like I think like let's wrap this up and think about how the conference can also help with self-care and how it like and you know, because it's true, because sometimes like taking away some time from your school site feels like really stressful and overwhelming. But and even for us, like taking some time off of our day-to-day work can be stressful. But like and also like let's connect it to self-care and how it actually could help.
Well, I already said it, a few of them, but like no lie, it was nice to stay at a nice hotel. Um, I mean, it was in San Diego. I don't know what else to say about that. I
Mm-hmm,
mean, it was
mm-hmm,
beautiful.
mm-hmm.
Um, ooh, I had fun watching Rihanna's halftime performance in the hotel room. I did a
Yes.
little dancing too. I
Mm-hmm.
know Aline made a post about it.
Yeah, go check out our IG feed so you can see Christina dancing.
And I mean, a lot of the times, y'all, I work from home, and I make sure I brush my teeth. I throw on some lipstick, and the majority of the time, I throw on a beanie or a hat if I have like bed hair. So it was just nice to just. I'm like, hey, I'm going out in public today
Mm-hmm.
or for the next 3 days. So I had to like dust off the dust on my makeup. I did my hair. I flat ironed it. Yeah, you guys, I ironed my clothes. And it was just nice. It was a nice mini me, like mini mommy break,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just like 2.5 days. And then of course, like it was just nice to be around a lot of positive, passionate educators.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course, spending a little 3 day with one of the besties. So that was always really fun. We had fun, and I'm sorry about the snoring, but I had fun, and it was very restful for me. um what about you, Lead?
That same with everything that you said. I think like you know, it's nice to have that breakaway from the day to day, from like your normal day to day. It mixes some things up. It helps you kind of like break out of the monotony, right? Like of like the same thing over and over again. I appreciated being fed and not having to worry about what I was gonna cook or if I had, you know, something I wanted in the fridge. So it was like, you know, I was being nourished. I was given breakfast, some snacks, lunch, and dinner, and that's not always the case over here. So that was a great way to take care of myself. And yeah, like being with you, spending that time together, you know, having fun, but at the same time learning and being around some great energy, meeting new people that you don't typically have the chance to meet, like from different states, was really awesome. And so if everything like it just really kind of replenished my cup in so many ways. It gave me what I needed at that time. And yeah, getting away is just always good to reflect back on you know, switching things up or keeping things the same because you realize like, oh, I could probably do this a little bit differently. So overall, I think PDs and getting away for conferences is much needed for all educators. And this is again a shout out to our admin to think of how can you support your staff to do that more often because there are ways that they can you know be rejuvenated by going away and learning new things and surrounding yourself with these people and then also just taking having that time away is helpful for a lot of people. I know it was helpful for me and for you. So
Oh, real quick though, we forgot to mention, I mean, we did say it was mid-February, so that meant that we were out there
on
for
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. So we were each other's Valentine, gallon's time, and
Yeah.
we treated ourselves to a nice dinner for two.
Mm-hmm.
And And then another thing, just making new friends. So, Dr. Heather Michelle,
Hmm.
she lives in San Diego. She was a guest of ours. And so we're
Yeah.
like, hey, let's, what I'm saying, let's connect. And we had a wonderful happy hour with her.
Hmm.
And it was really fun. And to just be with another fellow coach and just hear her
Yep.
experiences, just exchange stories. And so yeah, it was wonderful, like in terms of friendships and networking. And she's coming down here for a conference, and so we're going to connect again. So yeah,
Yep.
just had to throw that out there.
Yeah, no, I think, we're gonna link all of this stuff in the show notes. So if you want to check out just hatching results and information about the next conference, like we're not getting paid for this. This is
Mm-mm.
totally coming from like our hearts and just really enjoyed it and recommend it. So hopefully you enjoyed this conversation, and it inspires you to look into what the next PD is or possibly meeting up with us at the next hatching results. That would be great. So take it easy. We hope you enjoyed it.
Bye, y'all.